My friend Ari made a video about how to be good at yoga. And so this is just a continuation of that, my thoughts. It's a great video. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. Link is in the comments. Um, so I've had this too where people say like, oh, I want to be good at yoga. And so you kind of go, okay, what does that even mean? Right? So a lot of the times it's when people like look at my pictures on Facebook of when I just mastered a new pose, or they look at my pictures of Costa Rica where I did my teacher training, and they're just like, oh my gosh, I want to be like you. You're so good at yoga. Okay. Um, and I understand that because all they can see, from the outside is that I'm doing this cool stuff with my body, which, like, granted, is really cool. It's really fun. But, they can't see the 2.5 years of practice, almost three actually, in a month, that have gone into my yoga life. Um, they don't see, they don't know that it's been difficult for me, my personal practice, since I moved to Norman. I'm teaching 2 days a week, but it's hard to get on the mat. They don't know there are certain poses I just cannot do, certain poses I hate. All they kind of do is see these poses that they aren't able to do and go, I want to be good at yoga. And so, first of all, that's, the idea that there's such a thing as good at yoga, which is what Ari goes into. And it's just, you really just can't look at another person and go, I want that. It's the whole jealousy thing. I have an issue with it, totally. But ultimately, like, that's not what it's about. So much of yoga, the asana is just one aspect of the 8 limbs of yoga. There's so much more to yoga than doing that cool pose. And so when people say I want to be good at yoga, what they usually mean is I want to be good at asanas. I want to be able to do a handstand, I want to be able to do the splits, whatever. And while that's, it's kind of a cool thing, that should never be the point of a practice. For me, there was a huge difference in, I just realized the light's off, I'm sorry guys. There was a huge difference in when I got into a pose just to get into a pose and when I was actually ready to get into a pose. The former was just kind of like, oh yeah, I can do it, but there was really nothing going on internally. When I actually was able to do it, building up to it, using the strength, building upon however long, weeks, months of practice, there's this connection, this incredible mind-body thing going on that's just, you can't rush your way into that. And so while it's cool to be able to do those poses, if that's what you're worried about, you're really missing out on a huge part of yoga, which is the internal stuff. And that's another thing when you look at somebody else, you can't see what's going on. You don't know what's going on within them, and the person who does nothing but sit on their mat the entire time could be having a better practice than the person who's doing handstands. It really just depends on what yoga means to you and your internal state. For me, the yoga is that mind-body connection. It's finding that peace, that silence. Um, so that's sort of good at yoga, my first thoughts. Um, Occasionally when people say I want to be good at yoga, what they mean is, oh, I wish I was able to, come to my mat regularly and settle into Shavasana easily, always do yogic breathing throughout, blah, blah, blah. Fabulous. So would I. There are times that, as much as I love Shavasana, there are times when I just cannot get into it. I fidget, I have to make myself do it at the end of yoga glow practice, whatever. There are times I get to my mat and I'm like, screw this and leave. It's a practice. That's the whole point. That's why it's a practice. So hopefully I've done a little bit to dispel the myth of being good at yoga, but I know that it's still something we want to catch on to. We're so used to things being measured that way. So if you want to know if you're good at yoga, here's what you have to do. Do you listen to your body? Do you enjoy going to yoga? Maybe not all the time, but in general, is being on your mat a good time for you? Are you finding a connection with something, whether it's your God, your higher self, your mind and your body, any of those? If you're doing those three, if you're trying to do those three, you are good at yoga. Listening to your body is so important, and I can't remember who said it. I think it was one of my teachers, or maybe I read it somewhere, but it's the mark of an advanced yogi, isn't the one doing handstands, doing the constant handstand to chaturanga thing throughout class. It's the person who knows when to listen to their body and take a rest. And I definitely respect the people who take a child's pose when they need it, who do the pose with the back foot down, whatever. Like, if they're getting something out of it, that's where they should be. And I'm not saying you have to do adjustments to be good at yoga or to be getting the most out of a practice, but for most of us, there's going to be at least one or two practices in our lifetime, if not quite more often, where you just need to take a break. You just need to take it easy. And it's not saying you are any weaker, any less impressive or good at yoga than the person who can power right through. We are all different. You need to listen to your body and honor it. That's the whole point of yoga. That's what you're here to do. So I know it can be difficult because we are so tempted to look at somebody else and go, I want that. And just in our lives, that's something that I personally struggle with. It's something that a lot of us struggle with. But when it comes to your practice, try to just let go of measuring how good you are or, you know, when you'll be able to do this, and try to just enjoy it. Because if you just ignore that mental aspect, you're missing out on a lot. So hopefully this cleared some things up. Again, Ari's link is below in the comments, and thanks for watching.